Thank you. It was 5 minutes before the midnight, very near to a beautiful lake on a hot summer night. And that was the day I was born, almost 40 years back. My dad fell in love with my big bright eyes, and my mom, she wanted to hold me in her arms. But as I was a premature baby, so I went into a small thing during one entire week. So when I was able to go back to my mom's, I'm pretty positive that it was amazing for me to go back home. I am the youngest of two daughters. My big sister is 9 years old older than me. And when I was crying in the night, she will hold me in her arms and cuddle me in a rocking chair. And then my dad was a merchant, so he was always traveling. And my mom, she was a stay mom. And I remember as I was small, she was my first teacher. She taught me to write and to read. And I was naturally left-handed, but for my mom was easier to taught me to write with the right hand. So that's the why I am a right-handed or ambidexter. Only 8 months later, after my birth, my mom held me into her arms for my first passport picture. I was going to Costa Rica, my father's homeland. And so we were all in the family. This was my first big trip. And we were in the border of our country. As I was a child, so much people from many different cultures we experienced. Chinese neighbors and Africa descendant people. We had some neighbors that they were black and they were having these beautiful small ponytails with so bright colors. And I remember that for me it was so amazing to see that not all people look like me. So we moved to a coffee town, the town of Santo Domingo. And as we were there, our next door neighbor was a retired school teacher. And she also liked to help me to write and read. And there were also next door another Chinese neighbor. And they used to have very interesting animals sometimes. So I love to go and visit them as well. My childhood was a lot of discovery. I was always amazed by the crickets on the grass, and I will collect them. And also, I was looking forward to the time my dad will arrive after each of his trips, and he will call me, "Come," and then I will hop on his truck, and he will sit me in his lap, and he will teach me how to do the changes of the gears of the big truck he had. And I remember it was so fun to climb in that enormous truck. And also he will grab the coins that he will have in his car. There were from many countries, from Nicaragua, from Honduras, some pennies, and he would bring me small currency from Nicaragua. So for the time I traveled back to see my family and my grandma. My sister also taught me to dance. She's so popular. Until today, she's so friendly. People love to be around her. So she taught me to dance, and she used to record me when I used to sing songs because she thought it was something worth remembering. Then, with all this curiosity, I was looking forward to go to school because I could meet so many little children like me and play with them and tell them the stories about all these things I've seen. So, first day of school, I go and I don't even say bye to my mom. I just cross the door and there I am in the first class. But I found my best friend and we were talking and talking. And suddenly, what I know is that the teacher says that I need to move to the next class because I talk too much. And then on that one, the other teacher, for yet another reason that I was talking, then moved me to the last one. But there were just three classes. So then I had to stick on the third one. And well, that was my kindergarten. And later it came the school. And in the school, well, I kept talking and I kept standing. And because I was already reading, some of my friends in the class were not reading. So I would like to go and sit and help them to read. And I will read at their own pace so that then later they can read at a regular pace. You know, something I didn't tell you is that when I was very small, my mom used to tell me stories. We will have lots of storybooks. So then my mom will tell me the stories. And then I said, Mom, I don't want you to tell me the story. I want to read the story. Then I will tell you the tales to you. And so I did. So then I am again in the school reading to my friends like my mom used to read to me. But the teacher, when there was again one meeting with the parents, she said, you should stop teaching your daughter because she comes to worry. She gets bored in the school and she makes so much trouble. This was my mom telling me that the teacher has said that. And then I stared at her and then I said, and then, and she said, and then we will cope with you getting bored at school and don't stop learning. So she will keep bringing me, whenever she will give me small coins to get food in the cafeteria, I will collect them and then I will, by the end of the week or the month, buy some small book so that I can go and read and get that. So it was my precious collection of small stories. And those stories sometimes were a place to heal because as I mentioned to you, I came from another country at the north of Costa Rica. And at that time, it was not that cool to be from that country. So then I got called names, I got hit, and I used to get with like a sweet potato to my house. And I remember this is the first time I started to run fast because today I actually love to run, but at that time that's what I learned to do for for surviving. So when I arrived back home at that safe space where I was having animals and my mom would tell me stories, the reading comforted me to a place where I could dream that I could be me and accept it. When it came the time to go to high school, I thought I'm going to choose a place where I feel happy. And then I had two options, the art high school and one from the sisters from Mother Mary. And I went to the art school, and first thing I saw was two little girls that started to laugh at me because I grew so tall that the last part of my pants was showing my ankle. Because, you know, it's already the last year of school. Why would you buy another pant? And not that we had spare cash to buy pants at that time either. So I thought, I don't think this is the place. And my mom was very angry because she paid for classes of music and all sorts of things, but that was not the place. Then suddenly I had the opportunity to go to the school of the Sisters of Mother Mary. And then we talked about it. It was a private school. We were not sure if we were able to pay that, but I showed my grades and my grades were great. And I also spoke to them and they liked me. They liked me so talkative. And then they gave me a scholarship. So that's how I started in that high school that was private. And I remember my favorite nun, Sor Susana, or Sister Susana. She's a chemist, the first degree in the entire university. And she will love to tell stories about China as well. And she will always tell us, let's play basketball on the recess. And we were having classmates from all around the world, India, Germany, Norway, Honduras. So I felt again, I have so much friends from so many places. And actually, the level of energy I have is well received. So I spent such a fun time when I was in high school. The the nuns were always happy to get us to do exercise and to do arts and to sing. And I actually used to lead many of the acts that we were to do in high school. So of course I was fond of these sisters that got so much of my energy well channeled. So because of Sister Susanna was in National University, of course I was going to National University. And then I signed up for international relations because that made so much sense after so different background. And then I started to go to a class and there were so many books to read, so I love it. But one day I had to do a presentation. So I show up with my jeans and my tennis shoes and my t-shirt. And then something was off. The teacher said that that's not how an international relations professional look, that I do not use makeup, that my hairs are spiked. And then I thought, okay. Then I looked, and some of my classmates were already looking like that. And then I asked them to help me. And my sister, who was already big at that time and working, she used to lend me some of her clothes whenever I was having presentations, and she will help me to have some makeup. But she knew that's not me. And so my mom. But then I started to fit in as I started to wear like that. But as the university was so big, I I realized there were dance classes, which I remember my sister had taught me to dance, and I also used to dance in the high school. So then I thought, oh, I can get to do that in the night. And so I did. And I did that for all the years I studied in the university. And as you may have known, when you study dance, then you wear tights and then you wear um, some almost like a bat suit, and then you wear the shoes. So in the morning, I will be in the class of international relations. I will go to the library, which I really like to be there. And then just before my class, I will go to the bathroom and and change. But sometimes actually as I went out of my house, I was having my dance clothes underneath. So I will just put my clothes back in my backpack, put it back and run up where it was the dance school. And oftentimes I will arrive to the dance class with my uh, jacket still on. And sometimes it was a bit embarrassing because I arrived to the class with my dance clothes on of international relations. Then suddenly the people started to say, okay, so this is the girl that dance who studies international relations. But then I thought, okay, when I get to work, I need to find a place where I could live in both worlds. I've lived there when I was in my early childhood. I lived there when I was in high school, maybe. And then and then I found a cool personality that could fit those. And years later, I realized that was not me. I could look as if I got it all figured out. But in deep inside myself, I haven't found my calling. So as I started to go deep and find all these pieces of my story within me, suddenly I realized the way to integrate both of these. And I started coaching and I started to do project management. And then my creative part and then my science part were both at service of the people I work for. And so today, and as a leader today, actually, next week I start my first job as a manager. And I, the one thing I keep thinking is how can I create a space where people can feel so celebrated for what they bring to the table? And that is the motivation that I have today to create that space with others. And I hope that I can inspire you to bring the best as well. That is your so authentic, unique you, and bring that story to life. Thank you.